Hello and welcome to 6++, a wargaming channel dedicated to scratching your competitive and tactical 40k itch. More Warhammer is of course better than less Warhammer, and so here at 6++ we have decided to create some more content in order to try and fill the void that lockdown in the UK has brought. The goal of these videos in the Me v I series is simply our attempt at trying to stave off the lockdown blues. Will all the models be painted? No. Will each video be filled with fancy editing bells and whistles? Absolutely not. However, you will get to see us play our games and share our thoughts and insights into the various matchups. You will get to see all the key dice rolls, the ones that are important in terms of the game. And of course you'll get to enjoy our top quality wit and storytelling ability. If this is the sort of thing that you are interested in watching, then please consider giving us a like and a subscribe. We are putting out a lot of content at the moment and I'm sure you'll find something that you enjoy. Today we have a rematch of the Necrons and Custodes, but both lists are a different style to last time. So without further ado, let's crack on and look at those lists. If you joined us last time, you'll know that I had kind of built up a 1600 and something point list of the Necrons that I knew I liked, and I was looking at how to flesh it out to reach 2000 points. In that particular game I decided to use a Catan Void Dragon who performed interestingly, shall we say. So I thought, well, how can I try and change it around? So this time I've gone for more bodies to try and swamp the board more and try and take on the objectives more efficiently, I guess. So yeah, that's the goal really of the list. I have for the first time ever changed my dynasty as well. Usually I always take the 6-inch pre-game move and obsec. Today I'm playing Novuk. So everything is -1 AP, +1 to the charge. I can get extra attacks on my warriors. Yeah, I'm excited to try it out and see how it goes, especially against the Custodes, because it's always quite nice to put them onto a 3-up rather than a 2-up. So yeah, that could be an interesting one. So we've got a patrol and a outrider today, and I'm just going to talk through each of the slots. So in terms of HQs, I've got 2 Chronomancers and a Technomancer. In terms of the models, obviously I don't have the Chronomancer models, so the Technomancer model is my existing Cryptek model, and then the 2 Chronomancers are just Lord models. The Technomancer is there because he's got the Canoptic control node to give me +1 to hit on all of my Canoptic units, because I've got quite a few. And then the Chronomancers are there to give 5+ invulns to whoever needs it, shall we say, because I've got quite a few units that can benefit from it. For troops, I have got 40 Necron warriors split into 2 20s, one with flayers, one with reapers. I do believe the reapers are the better option, they're the up close one, but I just thought I'd give the others a go today. Plus they're all painted and we want to try and get as many painted models as we want in. Obviously they can both benefit from the 5++. They can just sit in the mid board, be really hard to kill. It's simple as that really. For elites, we have got a spider. He can sit on an objective in the backfield, or he can be up front, kind of sticking with all those scarabs and helping them out. He does a little bit in combat as well. For his points cost, I think he's quite a nice force multiplier. So yeah, he's just there for that. I do have 2 units of Scorpec Destroyers as well, 4-man and a 5-man, simply because I only own 9 models. I think 5-mans are quite nice, and they can obviously put out a lot of hurt in close combat, especially if they manage to get through because of all the nice damage they do. So yeah, you've got to try and keep them out of line of sight and push them up as and when you can. Got 2 5-man units of Wraiths. Don't take Wraiths to try and kill things because they don't do a very good job, but what they do is stick around and just be a nuisance. And in only a 5-turn game, that's all you need really. So yeah, I think of them as good and they're not good, very much depending on how they go in the game. They've never really won me games, obviously, but I think they probably have contributed to victories more often than not. So yeah, they have a place, I think, and 2 5-mans helps to avoid the blast. Then we get to the good stuff, of course, 3 9-man Scarab Swarms. Anyone who's watched the channel knows that I am a big Scarab fan. I always try and get them into my lists. I did run 996 last time. This time I'm able to get the 999. they are something which can really be important in this matchup. If they can just tie up those Custodes in combat for a long period of time, it will just slow the Custodes up enough that the Necrons just win on points. So therefore you have to be really careful as a Custodian player to try and avoid them as they just swarm up the board. They're so good at tagging stuff. I've literally won a tournament because a unit of Scouts made a charge before. So yeah, they're my favourite units. They're always very dear to my heart, and you should definitely have them in your army. Do it. And finally, we have the 2 units of 2 Crypt Thralls. Action Monkeys, simple as that, 40 points each. They start in reserve and then they come down and they get me points for engaging all fronts and deploy scramblers. That is literally their job. Obviously, they can do a little something in a pinch in combat, especially if they're by Cryptek, but that's not at all their point. They are literally there to score me secondary points, and that's it. So for the Custodes, we've got an interesting one. We have got a list for you, which on one hand is utter garbage, and on the other hand might actually secretly be really good. And I'm hoping today I can find out. Now you're probably quite confused at the moment, so let me explain. I've basically taken a bit of everything, alright? And a bit of everything includes 2 units of 4 bikes. Now, when bikes first came out, I was a huge fan of them back in 8th, and I had a bike army. Over time, they've kind of gone away. Since playing 9th, they still die so easily for their points cost. You go up against any shooting army, and if you've invested a lot of points into bikes, you're probably done. I had a list which actually played quite well in some matches, and it was 7 Terminators, 7 bikes, and a bit of fluff. And if you can't hide just big bike blob, and then someone gets to go first and shoots into you, and you just roll badly against, I don't know, Leviathan saves or whatever, and you suddenly lost 5 bikes, that's you losing the game already. So I don't actually believe investing points in bikes is worth it. If you do, it's got to be in a big blob, and then you've just got to hope that all the stratagems you can put on them kind of holds them up. Obviously, some people have played games with bikes and gone, no, bikes are amazing, but for me, and I've played quite a lot of games with Custodes, they can just get let down, and they just don't win the endurance fight, really. And I also don't think they hit hard enough, because once they've lost their rerolls to wound, it's just not that much, really. I think they're quite easy to get bogged down. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Also, once bikes get to kind of like 2 or 3 man squad, they just don't have much of a footprint. They can't really output much, and just as an opponent, I would just ignore them. So in that regard, I'm like, I don't think this list is very good at all. On the other hand, it's got all the right pieces. You know, we've got a Terminator blob. We've got 2 quite nicely sized squads of Guardians. So could be totally wrong, and it could smash the Necrons today. I'm not sure it will, but who knows? I think this is the sort of army that maybe someone who's starting with Custodes would play, because it's got all the different bits. So if you are new to Custodes and you're watching this and you're thinking, I quite like this list, well, let's find out. Let's see what it does. It's very simple. It's just a patrol. We're starting off with Trajan Valorous. When I can, I take Trajans simply because of the CP regen. Custodes go through CP very, very quickly. In terms of troops, I've got 2 Guardian blobs. I only own 6 with shields, so I've split them equally across the 2 squads, and then the rest have spears. 6 man and a 5 man, they're just going to walk up the middle of the board and try and take on whatever else is in the middle of the board. I've then got the -1 to hit banner, of course, always with Storm Shield because that's the model I own. And then of course we've got 6 Terminators. In this game, interestingly, really considering starting them off the board and then deep striking them down with the -1 banner, using Trajan's 3 CP, ignore cost kind of moment shackle ability, whilst using the deploy next to the banner and next to the enemy, and hitting Necrons from both sides. So you've got the bikes at the front and the Terminators in the back, and I think that actually could work. Decided not to. I'm just going to start them on the board, and then I'm going to probably unleash the Lions. I said that last time and I didn't, but I think that's still the right play, especially with the secondaries I've chosen. And then finally, as I said, I've got 2 units of 4 bikes. Interestingly, I've gone for all Hurricane Bolters, mainly because of the matchup. To be honest, I just wanted to give them firepower. And fun little maths fact for you, that's 2 units in rapid fire range, that's 96 shots. If they don't have access to the rerolls, that's 80 hits. That's 40 wounds on toughness 4 warriors, of which they fail 20. So that's 1 unit of warriors dead. Obviously, that's allowing for no reanimation between units firing, but it does mean if you get lucky, you could manage to wipe out a squad in 1 turn, which would be pretty huge. So yeah, it gives the game an interesting dynamic, I think. But if I was to go to a tournament with bikes, I probably would take salvo launchers, just because Hurricane Bolters aren't going to chew through all the Marines out there as efficiently as we would like. Okay, so today's mission is sweep and clear. As you can see, we've got 5 objectives on the battlefield, and it's taken hold. So 5 points for holding 1, 5 points for holding 2, and then 5 points for holding more than your opponent. In terms of secondaries, we'll start with the Custodes. We have gone for engage on all fronts. All those bikes and movement, and also the deployment really lends itself to that, because it's quite easy to get into the 4 corners, or at least 3, well, very simply. So engage on fronts, it seems quite the obvious choice. Also gone for deploy scramblers. It's a classic and I haven't had much success with it. I'm going to get it today. I promise I'm going to get it today. Unleash those lines, get deploy scramblers. Just don't mess about, that's the plan. And the third one was quite hard to choose. So I actually went for grind them down, so I'm looking to kill more. The last match, Custodes were usually killing more. You know, they haven't got many units. So hopefully we can kind of score 9 to 12 points on that. That's the aim. I don't think I could score as many points in any of the other secondaries. For the Necrons, also gone for engage on all fronts. Again, board. The deployment kind of just lends itself to that, because we're already starting right by 3 of the corners, and the list also just plays it like that anyway, so that should be absolutely fine. I was tempted by Treasure of Aeons, but I think engage on all fronts is more efficient in that regard. Again, we've gone for deploy scramblers, simply because of the crypto thralls. Should be fine there. Should have been fine last time and managed to mess it up, but again, I'm still learning the list. This is only the 4th time I've played with Necrons, so I'm still learning like the ins and outs. So we'll see how that goes. And then for the final one, I have actually gone for the mission specific one, which is direct assault, which is hold the middle of the board, 3 points. And then of course, if you manage to hold your opponents as well, you get 5 points. I think actually playing with the Custodes, they're not going to have much that wants to hang back, so that could be quite an easy one to sneak some extra things on at the end of the game, really. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind that. With that all done, it's now time to head over to the deployment. So I'm going to deploy the pieces and then we will be right back. Okay, here we are. Deployment is complete. So let's start with the Necrons. As you can see, when you've got that many models, it's kind of just about filling up the space. I don't have the pre-game move, so I won't be able to push right up straight away, but because of that, that means I've put my warriors right at the front, just in 2 squads, and then I've got the scarabs on either flank, with another unit kind of at the back with unit of raids, and everything's just ready to push forward really into the middle of the board. It's kind of the Necron's job to stand there and take the pain and hold out for the points and not die, so that's what they're planning on doing really. You kind of got the destroyers are there on the flanks as well to back up the scarabs, and yeah, that's kind of, we've got the buffing characters also in the middle ready to peel away. We're not too worried about any of the Custodes shooting massively, so I mean we've hidden a bit, but it is what it is really. From the Custodes side, again, we're not really too worried about their shooting, but better safe than sorry, so kind of deployed out a line of sight here with the 2 Custodes blobs. It was tempting to put the bigger one in deep strike, but I think I don't want to maybe end up going second, and then just not have enough time to influence the game and cause the early damage. The bikes are on the flanks, which means that they can either go right off to the edge or they can meet up in the middle depending on what opportunity presents itself. And then the Alaris are just hidden away there, and it'll be the kind of unleash the lions, stick one on the backfield objective, and then just start marching their way up the field. Yeah, actually thinking about it, the -1 banner isn't particularly useful in this game. Maybe should have made it the +1 attack banner. So yeah, if I was to take this sort of list to a tournament, and I was thinking maybe I would keep the Terminators on the board a lot, maybe that would be something to think about. But yeah, for this game I decided to start the Terminators on the board rather than deep strike them down. Maybe that's a mistake. Time will tell. So yeah, let's have a look at the first turn roll-off. Team captains once again meeting in the middle for the all-important, well, maybe all-important, roll-off to see who goes first. Sporting their warlord traits, Trajan Valoris gives everything within 6 inches a 3-inch heroic intervention. Necromancer has got an extra 3 inches to his auras, which in this is his Canoptic control node, so he can give +1 to hit to 9 inches away on Canoptic units. The crowd are hushed. Let's have a go at that first roll, which, may I add, is being done with our brand new 6++ dice. Here they are. Put them there next to the team captains for absolute excitement. There we are, look at them. Oh, isn't that beautiful, guys? They are very pretty dice. So yeah, Custodes to roll first, shall we? They've rolled a 2. Strong start. First ever dice roll on the channel, and it's a 2. But as a Custode, that's all you need, isn't it? Because the Necrons have rolled a 4. Oh, okay, so Necrons have to go first. So, the battlefield is set, the pieces are in motion, the die are cast. Or whatever the quote is. Let's get going. I'll come back once Necrons have done all their moving. Right, so Necron movement phase numero uno is complete, and as is so often the case when Necrons go first, the board is now covered in giant and small robots. So let's talk about the plan. This is what I've gone for, some sneakiness. Well, not really. These Scarabs are a 5-up invuln because they are quite possible to charge by the bikes which are over there. So therefore we've got them all defensed up. They've also got the destroyers there to back them up as a counter charge next turn if the Custodes do go for them. And then the race moved here to kind of act as a landing block. The bikes won't kill them on the charge, I don't think. And by going here, because 14 inches kind of lands around here, which is the movement of the Custode bikes. So what it means is they can't come and hit kind of this area of 20 warriors because they've not got a 5-up invuln. I gave the other 5-up invuln to them. So kind of they're acting as a bit of a screen there. I think race are quite a good screen. And then obviously you can see they're just thumbing in onto that objective. And then, yeah, so these guys, they haven't moved, they've just deployed scramblers in my backfield. Second unit of race kind of just moved up to act as a buffer. These guys have moved into the middle to get my 3 points for direct assault. They did advance, and the idea was I wanted to get them as far up onto the objective as possible to stop the Custodes from getting their models onto the objective. So obviously, if I rolled a 4, if I rolled like a 5 or a 6, that would have got me right up in front of the objective. So didn't quite manage it, but not to worry. These guys have kind of moved up. The spider is on the back, and then these guys advance and are just sneaking around the edge. The goal is to present Custodes with lots of choices, like how do they want to try and approach this game? Do they want to try and hammer down the middle? Do they just want to split up and try and deal with things? Do they want to focus on a flank? Give Custodes loads of options and hope that they take the wrong one. Obviously, as the opponent, I've got to try and work out what the right one is now. I think I've got an idea, but in terms of how this particular turn has gone, I scored 5 points because I get my 3 for direct assault, get my 2 for engaging all fronts. So from the fact that all I had to do is move up the board a little bit, 5 point head start, nice. I'm sitting on 3 objectives. If I'd rolled a 6 with the scarabs, they would have got onto the that objective, but it was a 1. So yeah, we're now looking to see how the Custodes respond in their turn 1. The nice thing about playing against yourself is that you can really spend some time analysing the situation, and you haven't got that kind of worry of your opponent getting annoyed at how long you're taking. And that's just as well, because I've just spent about 15 minutes standing here thinking, what is the best play? I've just run through a load of different scenarios. I'm trying to really focus on the minutia, because this is make or break. This is what I think. Custodes have to push forward. If they just say, oh, we'll try and play cagey, attack a piecemeal, then all the Necrons get to do is stay and kind of hold their ground, hold the objectives and just win. So therefore the Custodes have to take the fight to the Necrons. So then the question is, how do they do it? Do they split up and try and attack the flanks? Well, actually, the whole danger area of the battlefield is the middle, because of obviously you've got direct assault as a secondary. So therefore, it makes sense to just try and hammer through the middle of the board and divide the army up. If we can focus on getting rid of those obsec models, then maybe in the late game we can try and take over, because obviously the whole Necron force isn't obsec, they're Novak, which is different. So remember how I said at the beginning during the list that I would make sure I would unleash the lions? Well, I'm sure you can guess what's happening again. I'm not unleashing the lions. It's because I want to bring their shooting to bear. If I unleash the lions, they just get to shoot piecemeal at the guys in the middle, whereas if I keep them all together, I can put some strats on them and make the shooting really potent to those warriors. So that's why I've not unleashed the lions, and then that will mean next turn I can unleash the lions and then start deploying scramblers. The only issue will be trying to get to the enemy deployment zone, but hopefully the whole of the Custodes force can sledgehammer their way down the middle, and we can get there, but time will tell. In this game, with the Necrons blocking up the middle of the board so much, it will be hard to get to the deployment zone without the deep striking things. So, hey, maybe I've messed up deploy scramblers again. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, as you can see, we've moved here. Because I don't really know whether I want to charge with them or not. I've probably sacrificed not getting an engage on all fronts unless they end up charging into the race. It depends a lot on how the shooting phase goes. So we're going to do that now, and then I'll come back afterwards and let you know how much destruction happened. Okay, shooting phase went pretty well, I'd say. If you look here, you'll see that there were 2 warriors remaining. The Alaris fired into them and killed kind of like 9, I think. These bikes fired into them, killed some more. In the end, I had just this blob of bikes to fire left, and I didn't want to kind of waste that shooting, because I want these Custodes to charge into them and get onto the objective. So it's something to bear in mind. You don't always have to try and kill something dead. You might want to use your charge move for movement, which is what I'm planning on doing. So they then put all their shots into the back wraiths, and the wraiths rolled insanely well on their saves and took like 4 wounds on 3-ups out of like 20 wounds or something. So only 1 wraith died, but 1 wraith's better than no wraiths dead. So just for the charge phase, we've got this front squad charging into the warriors. and then the bikes are just going to be charging into the front, those golden wraiths and the warriors. Now, I'm pretty sure the Necrons have a strat for a canoptic unit to heroically intervene, so I suspect that'll be happening. So let's just do the rolls. So I need 5 with these custody foot guys. Getting it, so they're in. Then I need a 5 with the bikers, which I guessed as well. So we've got a 9 and an 8. Lovely. So I'm going to now move that in, and then I'll probably show you a bit of custody bike charge action, because we all love to see the glory, don't we? Okay, so just to tidy up before we do the fights, I thought about heroically intervening with the canoptics, but actually it makes no difference whether I do that or not, just because of who I can bring to fight and who can I bring to bear. And actually, if the grey race did intervene, I would then probably put my attacks into them, which you're allowed to do because it's 9th, not 8th. And then it would mean I'd probably kill, I don't know, like 3, and there'd only be 1 left. He might well run away, and then because of how the race over the gold wraiths are positioned, they would only be able to get in like kind of 3 to fight anyway. So weirdly, it didn't make sense to heroically intervene, so I've not done that. And also, I've not moved. I didn't bother charging with these guys because I'm happy sitting perched on this objective, and unless they're able to kill all 4 bikes this turn, I'm going to hold that objective because I'm obsec and they're not. So that's my reasoning there. So we would obviously start with the bikes, and they're going to go into the gold wraith. So let's see how we do. So we have got 4 guys with 4 attacks. That's 16 attacks. We are not re-rolling, and I cannot hold enough dice. So let's just roll these. Cool. So I'll drop 2 much things. So we've got 14 hits. There we go. And then we have got strength 6, toughness 5. So we're looking at 3s re-rolling because we are on the charge, and custody bikes do that. That's all they're good for. That's a pretty hefty roll. So I've only dropped 1. So that many 4-up invulnerables. So let's have a look. So that's 1 wraith dead, 2 wraiths dead, 1 takes a wound. Okay, well that's interesting, isn't it? That's not particularly punchy. As usual, wraiths are doing their thing. So let's just see. So currently got 2 wraiths dead, or do we? Yes, we do. 2 wraiths dead. Excellent. I'll do the rest of the fights off camera, and then I will let you know how that went shortly. Okay, that's the end of the Custodes turn 1, and as you saw, the Custodes only killed 2 wraiths, and as you'll see now, there are only 2 bikes left. The wraiths got through quite a lot, and the Custodes failed 4 out of 5 saves, even with a CP reroll. So yeah, not so great. And that right there is a perfect example of why I do not like bikes, especially in small quantities. In terms of points, you know, I mean, we haven't managed to get engaged on all fronts, but you know, we're holding the middle of the board to an extent. We've got a lot of threatening pieces. Managed to deal with one of the 20-man blobs. Yeah, we get the grind them down for killing more, so that's quite tasty. So yeah, we'll have to see what the Necrons can conjure up, because if they can start whittling through the bikes and the middle of the board this turn, it's going to be quite hard for the Custodes to keep up this pressure. But we shall see. Okay, so the Necrons' turn to movement phase is complete, and not a huge amount, just some minor movements, some repositioning, because remember, we're trying to hold the middle of the board and just tie up the Custodes and not allow them to score the points that they want to be scoring. So over here we've pushed forward a bit, but nothing really exciting. You'll see that these Gorse Reapers are ready to, is it Gauss? Gorse? Who knows? To unleash their hefty load into the boys in the middle there. These wraiths are going to stay in combat. these wraiths are ready to pick up whoever they want to, really, in combat. So what I did was I gave these guys a 5-up invulnerable, and I also gave those guys a 5-up invulnerable, which I was able to do earlier on. Before everything moved, there was the right range for that, which means that those lads might be in a bit of trouble. So we'll see how that goes. And they've moved around just as a backup to kind of re-go onto that objective as and when necessary, really. So yeah, this isn't... I honestly don't know how much damage this turn's going to cause. If it completely whiffs, this could be really interesting. If most of the bikes die and the middle Custode blob dies, then it's probably game. So yeah, big turn for the Necrons. I will come back after my shooting phase and let you know how it went. Right, we've had our shooting phase and our charge phase, so just to give you an update, they unleashed hell into those Custodes, who then decided that storm shields were going to do their job. And with about 20 wounds, they did use the Shadowkeeper strat, by the way, to mean that the strength 5 guns were now strength 4 guns, so they're wounding on 5s. They still got through 20 odd wounds with the stratagem to auto wound on 6s, and the Custodes just did what they did best and made invuln saves, and only one storm shield guy died. But this has got the potential to be a brutal fight phase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through everything that's about to go on, just so you are aware, because I'm obviously not going to show it all on camera. So we are going to be starting off with the Scorpec destroyers into these guys. And I've spent the Novox strat 1 CP to give them +1 to their attack rolls. So that will be pretty brutal. That's because I think this is a key moment. If I can deal with all those bikes, then that's pretty tasty. And then also I'm going to be exploding a Scarab for mortal wounds as well. That'll happen when the Scarabs fight. And then over here I have done the Shadowkeeper strat, so that on the guys on the Custode guards, so that they're going to be wounding on 4s rather than 3s, the wraiths that is. And then I've also avenged the fall. I will probably, as long as, well, I'm going to interrupt with them, so yes, I'll be I'll be interrupting with them for 1 CP because I'm buying an objective, and then I'll be avenging the fallen to give them an extra attack each because 1 model died. Whew, that is a lot. So let us do some fighting. So as I said, we are starting with the Scorpec guys. So the fancy 3 damage all hit. It's going to be 3s to wound. No, only 1 goes through. 4-up save. Fails it. So that's 3 damage. So 1 bike is down to 1 wound. And then we have got 4 others, and they all get 5 attacks each. So I'm going to try and pick up all of these dice, and it's not going to go well. Oh. No. Okay. Just roll. It's pandemonium! This is what happens when you play on your own. I mean, I could cut this, but I probably won't. Right. Okay, so I think that's probably the right dice. If I've just not got enough, I apologise. We roll the 1s. Let's roll the 1s. This is rather tasty. And then, I've forgotten what they are. Let me just check. Strength 5. So, wounding on 5s. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 up invulnerables. Oh, come on. 2 damage each. 1 dead bike. And that's it. Oh, plus extra damage. Cool, so 2 dead bikes. Okay, so now we're going to interrupt over here. Here we go then, let's start off with the sword. So you get 4 attacks, remember, because of Avenge the Fallen. Rather handy little stratagem. So, all hitting, as Custodes know how to do. And strength 5 going into toughness 5, so we're wounding on 4s. And it's pretty garbage. So then we've got 3, 4 up invulnerable saves, which we out 1 of. So that is D3 damage for 2, so I've taken 2 so far. And then the spears. All hit again. Oh, they're on fine form. And then we are winning on 3s this time. Oh, God. 4 up invulnerables. Oh, fail 3. So that's 1 dead wraith. 2 dead wraiths. Oh, so 2 dead wraiths. Do we resurrect at all? We do. So 1 dead wraith. Right, I'm going to now do the rest and come back with a roundup. Right, it's been all actions go then, and some interesting turns of events. So starting here, as you can see, we've still got a Custodian bike left alive on an objective. The scarabs exploded for 3 mortal wounds, which took a bike down to 1 life. And then I had loads of attacks. I had like 24 attacks coming in, and as you can see, the hit roll wasn't the best. So they managed to kill 1 bike and do another couple of wounds. So it will cost them a bit on the primary. Over here, the race did absolutely nothing because the 3 up invuns are boss. And then over here, the bikes didn't do anything to the race, and the race killed a bike in response. So it's looking rather tenuous for the Custodes, but they are holding 3 objectives, so they will get the full primary. And that's what we always say, guys, play the mission, and that is what the Custodes are doing now. It's very clear that they are almost certainly going to get overrun. So it's now up to the Custodes to try and start really focusing on the points. One thing I didn't mention was they're in there deploying scramblers, the crypt thralls. So now we just need to deploy in the enemy deployment zone. So yeah, as you can see from the scores, building a bit of a lead. But we'll see how or what the Custodes can conjure up in their turn 2. Right, Custodes movement phase is complete. It's I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking great for the Custodes, just based off my gut feeling. I'm having to really think here, but hey, that's why doing these sorts of things is really good practice, because you can think and think and think and try out the different situations and see what happens. So this is what I've done. I've unleashed the lions, and I used Trajan to make it free, because I want to be able to make the most of my CP over the rest of the game. So it was a 2 CP strat, but it's cost me nothing. So this golden boy has popped over there to get me into that board quarter, and these guys have moved up to here to try and make some slightly above average length charges. So we'll see how that goes. These Custodian guard are moving here to go and try and chop them up. He's just left on his objective to deploy scramblers, and then what he'll do is he'll swap places with the -1 banner at the end of or next turn. This was an interesting one. If he stayed in combat, scarabs would just explode and kill him. So he's fallen back, and he's also fallen back out of heroic intervention range, because remember, Canoptic units have the ability to do that with a stratagem. This is really annoying. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying this Canoptic vibe to the Necrons. It does mean that he'll be dying next turn, because the Crypt Thralls will just come in and kill him. But you know, he's denying that 5 points, because otherwise next turn they'd be scoring hold more if he ran away off this objective, so he's basically sacrificing his life for 5 points, which is fair enough. This biker flew over here. Yeah, it was a choice. He's gone over there to make sure I get 3 rather than 2 points for engagement fronts. I did almost fall him back over to here onto that objective, because then I would have been stopping them from scoring another 5 points, and I was like, oh, that's rather a tasty move. But he couldn't quite get far enough away from the Canoptic Scarabs, who of course would then heroically intervene, explode into him and die. So it was just one of those moves where it wasn't worth it. So obviously in a perfect world, if I'd had 2 of the bikes left, then I probably would have done it. But no, alas not. So yeah, that's kind of the thought process. I think that's covered everything. I'm going to do some shooting, and then I will update you in the fight phase. So we've done our shooting, and it wasn't that exciting. So you can see we did kill some Scorpet destroyers. There's only 2 left, and I killed 1 more Wraith. Didn't want to kill that Wraith because it would make the charge long, but I killed 1 more Wraith. And that's pretty much it. So as you can see, they've made their charge in here. I'm going to do the super exciting charges now, because we've got a bunch of random charges here. Not going to charge this gold guy, because as soon as he gets over there, he's then all of a sudden I'm not scoring my engagement fronts because I'm within 6 inches of the centre. So I'm going to just hang him out to dry. So we've got front white guy, this guy in there, needs a 7. Gets it with an 11. So he is in. Then we've got the gold guy behind him, needs a 9 to get in. That's a 6. Oh well, not to worry. So 1 guy's going to take on those risks. And then over here, because we're really trying to dominate the middle of the battlefield now, so we're going to go with Sir Trajan in there. He needs the middle. He needs a 7. He gets the 7. In he goes. Now then. These guys here. This guy needs an 8 to get in there. Which I have failed. I'm actually going to CP reroll that. Which he makes. He gets in. That's exciting. Cool. And then we'll try this guy. He's just going to go into these guys. He needs a 9. Which he fails spectacularly. But that is an interesting charge phase. I've managed to get quite a lot in on a lot of the dodgy rolls. So, oh hello, maybe they're about to do some hurt. We shall see. I'm not going to film any of these, I'm afraid, in the interest of quick fire battle reports, which we always fail to do. So I'm going to do the fights, and I'll let you know how it goes when I come back. So we've had a pretty interesting fight phase. Now this was lots of back and forth and spending of CP and that sort of thing. I had to work out where would Necrons interrupt, and I think it was in terms of trying to keep these wraiths alive. So I started off with 1 of the Terminators, and he got through 3 wounds onto the wraiths. I made 2 of them, so I decided to CP re-roll the 3rd one, and then I made it, so I still had 2 wraiths left. And then I used the wraith, then I interrupted with the wraiths, and they fought into the Custodes Terminator, who hadn't already fought. And then they left him with, he failed 2 saves, so he was going to die. So I re-rolled that, and I failed it. So 50-50 is working out that way. So that Terminator did die. So there's still 2 wraiths there, and 1 Terminator did die. Trajan just went huge and took out like 3 wraiths on his own. And obviously the destroyers over here died. So Custodes are building up a bit of a points advantage now at the end of turn 2. But Necrons have obviously got a lot of stuff to come in and kind of deal with, or try and deal with the middle. And it's a good old-fashioned slugfest, and who's going to outpoint the other person. It's really interesting. I genuinely don't know who's going to win, but we are probably about to find out what double or one extra attack, -1 AP. Warriors are going to be like in combat for the first time, so that's quite exciting. So yeah, we've got the Necron turn 3 up next. Okay, the Necrons have done their moving for turn 3, and it feels like this is the turn. If things go their way, I think they will just, what they'll do is they'll take out enough threats, and on top of that they'll also be able to shore up all the weaknesses. They'll be able to just wrap and trap all of the Custodes who will have no escape, and it will just become a grind fest for the rest of the game, and the Custodes won't be able to chew through the Necrons quick enough. I think that's what could happen. That's my prediction if I was a spectator, but we shall see. So just talk through the game plan. Where should we start? Here these rays fell back because they can fall back and charge. They're going to try and just take care of this golden boy who's got a bit too far up advanced. These scarabs are going to whip around and start trapping and stopping those Custodialaris from kind of making their way up the field. So that's just going to become a deadlock in theory. You can see we've moved up here towards the middle of the board. They're going to unleash all their shots into the guard, and then hopefully go and kill some more in combat. Here the scarabs are going to tie up those guardsmen. Crypt Thralls are going to go and deal with the Custode guy, but maybe not. Maybe I'll just send in the scarabs just to explode onto him. And that's kind of it. He's hidden away so he can't get heroically intervened into. Hopefully the little bit of shooting I have, which will be the two chronomancers, hopefully they'll be able to take care of the bike on his own. And then just to finish off, we have our final deployed scramblers. I have only just found out that your battlefield edge is actually listed in the mission pack, so that's embarrassing. So thank you for that, my dear kind friends. I was just trying to work out what the battlefield edge, enemy battlefield edge was, and it tells you that in the mission it's this one. So they could drop in by this one and deploy scramblers. So that is deploy scramblers achieved at the end of the turn, which is very exciting. It's not looking good for the Custodes. So yeah, we're going to do some shooting, do some charging, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we've done our shooting, we've done our charging. As you can see, it's just a big mess. We've got the race over there. The Terminator did try and tangle foot the race, but it only rolled like a 3, and obviously Nova get +1 to charge, so they still made it in. The Warriors came in here. They had a choice of staying outside of 3 inches of Trajan or not. By not staying outside of 3 inches, actually they got quite a few more attacks into the guard, so they just accepted the fact that he would chop them up, but you know, they'll just be pulling models from the back, so that doesn't really matter. The destroyers came into just that one Terminator. All the warriors are going to try and kill the guardsmen after their shooting, killed 1 Custode guard with a shield and did 5 wounds in total from 40 shots. Over here they've started to wrap and sort of trap them a bit to the extent, and then finally this guy's probably going to die from mortal wounds. So, oh, and also, sorry, here you can see they've begun to trap them as well. So yeah, they've kind of really done a good job of cementing the battlefield. So I'm going to do the combat now. In terms of stratagems, I'm going to make the warriors spend 1 CP to make the warriors strength 5. So therefore they'll be wounding on 4s. But then I will shadow keep as the strat to reduce them back down, so they're now wounding on 5s again. I have spent the Novak strat to give them +1 attack. Oh yeah, and he also heroically intervened. But yeah, other than that, I'll come back once all the death and destruction is over. Just to interrupt your regular daytime viewing, the warriors have absolutely fluffed it. 24 attacks and like 11 hits. And not a single wound got through after a CP reroll and 1 failed save. Interesting. Anyway, I'll get back to rolling dice. Okay, that's the end of Necron's turn 3. Kind of as we spoke about at the beginning of the turn, the goal for the Necrons was just to not really die and hold up the Custodes, and they've kind of done that to a pretty good degree. As you can see here, I actually didn't in the end explode the Scarab base. I didn't need to, so I just didn't. They just did the job in combat. Custodes lost 1 to all the Scarab attacks. Those -1 AP on Scarabs is mean. And then they killed like 4 bases on the fight back, which was pretty decent. Wasn't so decent over here, where the Custodes only managed to kill 5 Necron warriors with Trajan, so that's pretty appalling. I did a bit of interrupting. I tried to keep the Custode Terminator alive. I interrupted, failed to kill any Wraiths, and the Wraiths killed him on the fight back after a failed CP reroll on a save. And this is just an ongoing combat. So yeah, with everything tied up, it's really not looking good for the Custodes, unless this one hero who didn't die from the shooting that was put into him can now suddenly change the game, but it's quite unlikely. So what I'll do is I will play out Custodes turn 3, give you an update on the scores. Okay, so we've heard Custodes turn 3. Things are not looking good for the Emperor's Finest. Well, what's the good? These guys managed to kill off all the Scarabs, so it's huge. He killed the Tomb Spider. That's where the good news kind of ends, really, I'm afraid. As you can see, there are Scorpet Destroyers, used the Novak Strat for an extra attack, and just killed off those 3 Custode guard in the middle. So yeah, not very good. And you can see from the score here that it's quite far behind now, and obviously Necrons are about to score some tasty primaries, so I'll give you another little recap next of the Necron turn 4. It wouldn't be a crisp battle report without there being some sort of mic issue, and this time it was the fact that I recorded a kind of summary of turns 4 and 5 and then realised that the mic had died. So it was just a bunch of video, no sound. So apologies for that. In reality, not much actually happened turns 4 and 5 in terms of affecting the overall game, as you can see from the score. Interestingly, the Custodes were actually in the ascendancy. They did have control of the middle of the board. They were laying the smackdown to the Necrons, but the Necrons were in all the important positions, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day. So I've decided not to show that footage, just because I don't think it gains anything. You can see from the scorecard here how it panned out. Apologies again for the mic issues. You may have noticed some issues during the actual recording as well, of the sound kind of spiking and peaking. Not quite sure why that's happened. It's really pretty much impossible to edit out, so apologies. And if any of you are sound engineers or have any sort of skill with sound, please do let me know, because I am struggling. For example, why does this sound so much better than when the same mic is attached to a camera? I just don't know. So if you could give me some sort of help, I am always up for that. But yeah, let's go to the debrief. Okay, so the game is over and the final scores are in, and as you can see, a reasonably solid victory for the Necrons. It's been a long day, not going to lie, but a well-deserved victory for the Necrons, I think. The game plan was always clear: get to the middle of the board, hold the objectives, and make the Custodes chew through you. And it worked like a charm. You got to turn 3 and just said, right, well, here are all the roadblocks. D3 damage isn't going to help you out here. You haven't got enough attacks. You don't have the shooting. Frustrating from a Custodes player, because actually, weirdly, on turns 4 and 5, the Custodes were the ones putting out all the hurt, but you know, the Necrons were in all the important positions, which I guess is what warfare is like, really, to an extent. But it was the secondaries at the end of the day. I think the Custodes list as I said, bikes don't really do anything. On 95 points, they just, or whatever they are now, they just don't do enough, in my opinion. And in that sort of style of list, it doesn't work. So if you are going to take bikes, you need to go full on and just try and smash into your opponent and get lucky with your matchup. Or you could take one blob and just pile all your defensive strats on them, take a blob of 6 or 7 bikes, that could work. But yeah, they can't be everywhere at once, they just don't have the killing power. I'm not really sold on them. And that's 2 games I've played now, really, where the lists haven't been too different and the results kind of been the same. Both times Necrons have gone first, so it's something to bear in mind, but I don't think that's really cost Custodes in any way, to be honest. So yeah, next game I've got a choice of either going for 2 very different lists. I do have lists in mind, or maybe the Custodes will bring some help along. For example, the AdMech army that I'm doing in my From Grey to Greatness video series, so maybe I could bring in some Castellan robots or something. That'd be a bit of fun, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think the game kind of went as expected, to be honest, so that proves that I have some idea of how these armies play, I guess. But yeah, thank you very much for joining. I hope you've enjoyed another one of our MeVI games, and there'll be more in the pipeline because of course lockdown's here to stay for at least a little while in the UK. So yeah, we'll keep pumping out the content. Hopefully you keep watching. Take care.